So the next day, dude hit my partner like, man, y'all got the concert. Let us trail y'all, woo-de-woo. So dude went with us to the concert. And after I come off stage, everybody leaving. You know, we parked under the parking lot, under the arena where the celebrities parking and all that shit. He was in another car. He walked to his car. His car was outside the arena under where we was. It was on side the parking lot, so he had to walk to his car. And
Hello, Boosie drowning in heat right now. Everybody throwing his name around, and the whispers in the streets are getting darker by the day. People saying he called the shot on Duke the jeweler, and now his reputation turned toxic overnight. This ain't the Boosie who once had respect in every corner. Word is, he's blacklisted from the very same blocks he used to move through like a king. Folks claim he already slipped once, and if he dares step back in that hood, the warning is loud. He might not make it out walking on his own. That's how real the tension is. But here's the twist. Boosie's got ties with that mob ties circle, the same clique that always pops up when dice games turn deadly.
He got three right, who rotate the dice. Now these dice is loaded. Tell me it's a Wolf, Big Caprice, and watch this, and Little Cam are the loaded dice rotators, right? He said what? There was a situation that occurred that a certain jeweler around and got past the dice on accident and was hitting on them for a couple hundred. They got irritated about that. I ain't gonna go too far into that story because, right, boom. The only way they could get their money back was however money back. He said, but Lil Cam, Wolf, and
Duke, he lost his life right after one of those late night heavy loaded dice sessions. Sounds familiar? Yeah, the streets can't help but compare it to what happened with Takeoff. Now the question everybody keeps asking won't go away. Did Boosie line Duke up as some kind of sacrifice? Or is he just the name they're throwing out to cover up a deeper, dirtier plot he never even saw coming? Duke's murder didn't feel random. It felt clean, sharp, cold-blooded, like somebody planned it step by step with no mercy.
that's where the incident took place when somebody, tried to get him or whatever. But Vlad, bro, if anybody know me, bro, that ain't my stilo, bro. You know what I'm saying? That ain't how I get down, bro. Like, that ain't how none of my people get down. And that's just the bottom line. That's shit that we wouldn't do. And we was up about it because obviously they were watching us. Obviously they were waiting for anybody to walk across that parking lot to them cars and get in them cars. So, it could have been one of us, man. You know what I'm saying? But it's just that happened to that dude. It's just internet.
That night, Duke the jeweler was rolling dice for hours, side by side, with dudes he thought were his circle, his people, his friends. But the streets swear those so-called friends might have been signaling behind his back the whole time. Why would anyone want to set Duke up like that? Duke was nothing but pure hustle. This man grinded from the dirt, built his empire piece by piece. No shortcuts, no handouts, just straight sweat and vision. He wasn't your average jeweler either, and Duke was making custom one-of-a-kind pieces for up-and-coming rappers while also serving some of the heaviest names in the rap game.
Hey, the internet, y'all got us all the way up, man. We met that dude, Duke the jeweler, the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man. We getting money. That ain't our stilo. As a boss, I ain't letting that go down like that, man. This dude finna make me a piece. So y'all need to kill that. That's bad low, man. Don't put us in nothing with no bad low. It's bad low, man. This bad low, man. Straight up, this shit bad low. kill it.
His name carried weight in every circle. When he dipped out of Chicago and slid down to Houston, it wasn't to party or play, it was strictly business. And who's the one that supposedly opened that door? None other than Boosie. Word is Boosie hit him up, told Duke face to face he wanted fresh custom jewelry done. So Duke pulled up loaded, duffel bags stacked with millions in icy pieces, ready to lock in some serious deals. But what Duke didn't know is that this trip would end up being his last move. That same duffel bag, instead of being a ticket to bigger money, turned into the most haunting detail of the whole story.
Down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried to rob him and killed the dude. What the hell my 19-year-old cousin gonna try to rob and kill somebody? Bro, we getting money, man. We getting money. That ain't our stilo. Man, Lord.
That nigga gonna have $500,000.
And it popped up in ways nobody saw coming. But before we even get to the bag, you gotta understand this dice game because it's tied directly to Duke's death. According to whispers in the street, this wasn't just friendly gambling. It was a straight up setup, and Whack 100, who ain't scared to call out the dirt, said it loud and clear. He warned, if you ever get invited to a dice game in Houston, especially one hosted by Jay Prince, you better run, because your odds of walking away with your money or even your life are slim to none. And if you believe him, that's exactly what trapped Duke the jeweler. He walked right into a pit with sharks waiting. Whack even broke it down further. These dice games ain't clean at all. They're rigged to the core, the dice get tampered with, and only Jay Prince Jr. and his mob ties crew end up walking away smiling. That's not gambling. That's robbery dressed up as a party game. At these dice games, the house always wins, and that's the unspoken rule. But the moment the house slips, that's when things get deadly. That night, somebody made a mistake. They passed Duke the loaded dice, and just like that, Duke couldn't stop winning. He was stacking hundreds like it was light work, flipping the table's energy and cracking the system wide open. The more he won, the heavier the air got in that room. But Duke wasn't just stacking wins. He had his phone out, recording the whole thing. Camera rolling, cash flying, him laughing at the table like he owned the night. At first, it looked like simple flexing, just a man enjoying his hot streak. But when those clips resurfaced, people caught the details Duke never noticed. Shadows moving funny, side eyes full of hate, whispers sliding across the room, and slick hand signals bouncing back and forth. None of it looked friendly. It looked like wolves circling prey. And here's the part that got the streets buzzing. Word is Jay Prince takes 30% off every dice game haul. So when Duke flipped the system, he didn't just kill the vibe. He cut straight into their pockets. He messed with the money, and that's a move that can't be forgiven. Things got darker quick. Duke kept posting clips of his winning streak, showing off how untouchable he was. But when folks replayed those same videos, something sinister jumped out. Watch close. Boosie leans back, flicks a fast signal across the table to his nephew. That tiny move flipped the energy instantly. His nephew locked eyes, another man tapped his shoulder, and the room froze. Seconds before, Duke was all laughs, tossing dice, drowning in cash like the night was his. The very next moment, silence hit like a storm. The room turned stiff, cold, and packed with tension, like everybody knew the script except Duke. Minutes after the dice game, Duke walked out. No bodyguards, no crew, no protection, just him and a duffel bag stuffed with millions in cash and jewelry. A man carrying that much value on his back, strolling through a dark Houston parking lot. That's not just risky, that's practically a setup waiting to explode. 1 minute, Duke's buzzing about his big wins, the next, gunshots tearing through the night. But here's where the whole story stops making sense. Why would Boosie, who knew the dangers of Houston dice games, invite an out-of-town jeweler carrying millions and not make sure he had security? And why didn't Jay Prince Jr., the man hosting the game, guarantee his guests got out safe? These weren't small details. They were massive red flags waving in plain sight. Then came the discovery that shifted whispers into a full-blown conspiracy. Police hit the scene after reports that Duke was ambushed by robbers. But when they pulled up, they found him lying in blood, chains still around his neck. Think about that. What robber shoots a man dead and leaves the most obvious, most expensive jewelry untouched? Those very same chains Duke flexed proudly at Boosie's concert earlier that night, still there, untouched, still shining under the crime scene lights. But the story twisted even darker. The real missing piece wasn't the chains, it was that $1 million duffel bag, the one stuffed with Duke's unreleased, top-tier custom designs. At first, that bag vanished into thin air, gone like it never existed. But when Houston PD kept digging, the bag magically turned up, inside Boosie's own house. Now nobody knows if Duke willingly handed it over during the game for safekeeping, or if Boosie somehow ended up with it after the tragedy. But here's what nobody can deny. That bag tells a story, and it's louder than any rumor in the streets. The bag made it out alive, but Duke didn't, and that's when Boosie jumped quick to spin the story. He hopped on live trying to push the robbery angle like it explained everything. But his words had cracks all over them. From start to finish, his version didn't feel solid. It felt shaky, like smoke hiding something deeper. He swore up and down that he barely even knew Duke, claiming Duke just walked off after the game, but the streets weren't buying it, not for a second, because by then too many pieces weren't lining up. And let's be real, why would Boosie personally invite Duke to a private dice game with his close circle if he barely knew him? On top of that, Duke likely wouldn't have even shown up if Boosie hadn't promised him a custom piece. So now the picture looks crazy. Boosie had Duke carrying $1 million in jewels with no security, then turned around acting like the man was a stranger. Something in that story wasn't adding up, and the streets caught it quick. And Boosie's body language told even more. On live, he didn't look calm, confident, or collected. He looked pale, twitchy, jittery, like somebody haunted by what they'd just seen. That's not how an innocent man moves. That's how someone moves when they've got ghosts chasing them. The more Boosie talked, the less people believed him. Every word felt like desperation, like he was clawing to erase his tracks. But the internet doesn't forgive and forget. It digs. Clips, interviews, and comments spread like wildfire. One viral comment summed it up. Boosie seemed to know everything Duke did before and after that night, almost like he was watching him. That hit home with people because it echoed what everyone was already whispering. Something shady was definitely in play. It got so messy the feds had to slide in. Boosie was already on their radar for separate gun charges, but Duke's case sparked a fresh investigation, and the deeper they dug, the uglier it got. They tracked Duke's phone. Last ping was at Boosie's studio. Unless Duke's phone grew legs and walked there on its own, somebody in Boosie's circle had it. That wasn't sloppy. That was bold. The type of confidence you only see from somebody who thinks they beat the system. And then it went darker. Forensics swept Duke's rental car, and what did they find? Fingerprints from Boosie's own cousin and nephew. Suddenly, that signal Boosie flashed during the dice game wasn't just some random move, and it looked like the start of a dangerous chain reaction. It felt like the exact second Duke's path was sealed. He was a marked man, and he didn't even know it yet. At least that's what witnesses claim. One witness stepped up, and everything changed. The feds couldn't ignore the tip because the witness says they were outside smoking when they allegedly saw Duke walking to his car, and then Boosie's nephew showed up like he was waiting in the cut. People say Duke sensed the switch and allegedly swung first, but it didn't matter. Within seconds, shots cracked the night and Duke went down, lifeless. The witness insists there was no robbery in progress, no chaotic scramble. This didn't look like a simple stick-up. This reads like a plan, not a robbery, and that makes the whole thing way darker. Duke never stood a chance if this was about silencing him for beating a rigged game. It wasn't about cash or chains, it was about punishment. The feds aren't just taking notes, they're full-on digging in. Sources say investigators are combing every corner of Boosie's life. Businesses, messages, movements, and even keeping tabs on his son as part of the probe. This isn't a basic case, it's heavy surveillance mode, the kind that waits for someone to slip, then strikes hard. And the streets are answering with their own justice. When Boosie tried showing his face back home, he got jumped by locals tired of their hood turning into a death trap. That's how raw the reaction's gotten. Now Boosie can't even step outside without being flanked by heavy security. Every move he makes, he's looking over his shoulder, paranoid that somebody might take him out at any second. And don't get it twisted, folks say he created this mess himself. Him and Jay Prince Jr. built up that whole check-in culture where any rapper or celebrity landing in Houston gotta pay up for so-called protection or risk being ambushed, robbed, or worse. But think about it. Is that really protection or just extortion with a different name? The alternative is always the same, gunfire waiting around the corner. And those dice games? Deadly. High stakes, shady vibes, and way too often ending with somebody not making it home. Just 2 weeks after Duke was killed, Takeoff tragically went down at another one of these very same games. He didn't even make it outside the building. He was shot right at the table. Coincidence? The streets don't believe that for a second. And all this violence, it's bouncing back on Boosie hard. His rep is shredded, his money flow bleeding out. Brands don't want to touch him, deals are frozen, and even mob ties, the same crew he once leaned on heavy, left him hanging in the wind. He tried speaking up, but every time it came out sounding weak, shaky, and hollow. Then came the DJ Vlad interview, the one everybody was waiting on, screens locked, hoping Boosie would finally address Duke's death head on. Instead, he ducked every single question, hiding behind his shades and flat out denying he knew much of anything about Duke. But fans ain't stupid. They read him like an open book. His tone, his body language, his stares dodging the camera. It all screamed like he had something to hide. That clip spread like wildfire. Comment sections exploded with people calling him out, saying Boosie only wore those sunglasses so Vlad couldn't look him dead in the eye while he was lying. Folks saying he capping, he definitely had something to do with it, and now the damage is done. No spin, no story can save him. The public turned. The streets don't ride with him anymore, and the feds are circling closer by the day. Boosie sits there in silence, shades on, knowing deep down the walls are already closing in.
Thanks for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next video.